Hello, we are going to make a double hook. Let's create a new document. I'm going to call mine task 84 double hook, and I'm going to create this document in my classwork folder. So we're going to start with a sketch on the front plane. And we're going to use our line tool to start making the profile of the hook. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that I have the size that I would want, I think. And I'm going to start at the origin, bring my line up. I'm going to make some lines that will allow for this hook to hang over a door. And now that I have that framework, I'm going to create a curved hook at the bottom. So I'm going to use my constructed line tool to make a guideline here. Maybe something like that. And that will enable me to use my 3-point arc tool in order to add a nice curve at the bottom here. I'm clicking on the 2 points where the curve should end. Then I give it a radius. That looks good. I'm going to move that because I find it hard to read. Here, we'll just do that. Perfect. Okay, let's add a bit of a line here so that there's a little bit more hook to hang on to. Just a really small, maybe 1/2 inch line. And I'm going to now make the second part of this, the double hook. So I'm going to use my line tool. I'm going to connect onto somewhere in the upper part of my long vertical line, and I'm going to start a point and pick make a line that's going to come out. One thing that you might want to do is if you hover over the end point of your other hook, you get this nice yellow vertical line that can kind of guide you so that your current line will end right over that hook. That might, if you like that spacing, that might be helpful. So, you can just decide how high or low you think the second hook should go. I'm going to do something like this. And I'm going to leave that for now. I'm going to use another construction line so that I can make another arc. And this time, I'm going to make sure it's at a 90-degree angle. Do you see how Onshape can kind of snap into position with the yellow line? Where's my snap? There it is. So this line has a little bit of a yellow layer underneath the blue dotted lines when I'm at a 90-degree angle, which is what I want to be at. I'm going to bring the line out a little bit more. Something like that is good. Okay. And from there, I'm going to use a midpoint because that will help us with creating an arc centered on a midpoint. So hopefully you see the midpoint constraint symbol near my mouse point here. That indicates that I'm hovering right about over the midpoint of this line. So I'm going to place a point right there. And then I'm going to use my center point arc. Click on the center. Click on how how big the radius should be. I think that'll do it for me. And then you get to sort of swing your arc around and stop your mouse where you think the arc should stop. So I'm going to make mine just about like this. I think it's a little bit more than 90 degrees. Oh, wait a minute, that wasn't supposed to be a construction line. Let me do that again. Center point arc. Here's our center point. Here's our radius. Oh, look, if this happens to you, here we go. You can go back to the starting point and swing out. Okay, perfect. That looks good to me. And I'm just going to pull this over here. Can I? Good. So we have right now an over the door hook. That's actually a double hook. It has capacity to hold two things, which is what we wanted. This, I don't know if you're thinking what I'm thinking. This by itself doesn't look so stable. So we're going to build in a support. For that, we're going to use another line. And my thought is to make a 90-degree angle. That's not going to work. So we'll do something like this. And this will give us a little bit of extra support for whatever is hanging on the top hook. At this point, I would suggest you pause this video and take a minute to decide what are all of these measurements going to be? What are all of your dimensions going to be? How does this make sense given the space that we are designing for? So take a minute to grab a ruler, grab a caliper, and think about what is the clearance over the door, as in, you know, how thick should this part be? You could think about how tall you want this hook to be. You might want to think about how far apart should this and this be? You know, how long should this be? In addition to how much clearance you have between the door and the door frame. And that will influence how big the offset will be from this line. So take a minute and measure. You can pause this video and come back to it. I'm going to put in some random measurements because we're not, this video does not intend to define measurements. That's your job. I'm just trying to teach you the skills you need to make these shapes. So you're going to want to use your dimension tool and go ahead and add a dimension for each part in a way that makes sense to you. Okay, I think we have our measurements. Awesome. So let's go ahead and use our offset. I'm going to click on quite a few of the lines. And we are looking pretty good. We've got a certain thickness going here. As a reminder, you can use this arrow tool to decide how thick or thin your offset is going to be and whether it's going in this direction or this direction. think I'm going to go this way. Once you click down, you can use your mouse to green check and accept your decision there. And then you're prompted to enter the dimension for your offset. I'm going to go for 0.2. And let's also add an offset for the second hook. So let me get my offset tool. I think I want this to come in. I'm going to make it the same thickness that I had for the rest of this hook, so it's 0.2. In this direction, let's make it 0.2 again. Okay, so now we have 2 hooks getting started here. Let's close our shape with the line tool. So we can close things here. We can close our hook here. And we can close our hook here. That is good. Let's also use our snip tool to remove anything extra, anything we don't need for this shape. I think we're okay. Great, so if you have something like this, we can accept the sketch. And if you were thinking it's time to extrude, you are correct. We're going to choose our hook, including the second hook and its support. 1 inch I think is fine. If you have a more specific idea for your hook design, by all means, set the depth that makes sense to you. And then we're going to use a fillet to round things out, since this is a rounded style hook. We can round things out like that. You could even go a little bit bigger if you wanted to, like 0.5. That kind of seems like a lot. Oh, I ended up with 0.7. I think I'm going to go for 0.25. Just to get a little bit of a hint of roundedness. Okay. So this hook is looking okay. We've got some rounded edges, we've got some support, we've got capacity for 2 hooks. I'm getting kind of excited about it. Before you finish, you want to go ahead and put your name on your figure. So I need to start a new sketch. Onto the top face. Let's look at it from the top. And we're going to sketch some initials there. I'm using the dimension tool to define the size of my initials. I'm just going to go with, I think, 0.75 inches. And then still with my dimension tool, I'm going to define the distance we want from each edge. So I'm going to go for 0.1 here. .25 here. And everything is black. That looks well defined. Let's extrude like so. I think a depth of like 0.1 should be just fine. So if you have a double hook, if your double hook has a rounded bottom, if it has some rounded edges, if it has your initials on it, if you can handle 2 items on your hooks, then you're in good shape. Good luck with the project.